Brian Wang, I want to know if the real reason that Donald Trump is pushing, president of the United States is pushing so hard for peace in Russia and the Ukraine is so that Elon can open up those two markets for Tesla vehicles.
No,
No, that's not
yeah,
it.
it's actually more important than that. I think it's actually for world peace.
Oh,
So
I'm sure
yeah,
but don't you think the press is going to think that this was all a setup to get Elon more market share? I mean, come on.
yeah. So I think that kind of thinking is from people who have been made angry and crazy about things. Where it's like, okay, stopping a war that's killing thousands of people a week is somehow related to, well, that lets you sell some more. There's corruption. I totally get. I'm on board with corruption, right? But there's other things that are more important.
So, okay, all right. So I'm even sorry that I gave them the old stream media that idea.
Mhm. Right.
All right, let's talk about today, because I'm sure that even though, there's been a couple of other shows, around town that have been talking, including my own, with Nicholas Gibbs just a little while ago, we talked about what happened today in the market, but you come to it, I think, a little differently than Nicholas does. And I really want to know what you think happened, and especially, from a technical standpoint and what happens next and all that jazz. So I'm just going to turn you loose and you can say whatever you want to say. You would anyway. Yeah.
So basically, technically at 3:30 we're at a key support, right? And basically, I view these things, and maybe whatever my conspiracy interpretation of it is that when things are going kind of sideways, and you have a volatile stock, that means people with a lot of money, indexes, funds,
Mm,
people, billions of dollars,
mm.
they can move the stock really high up, 48, and they can drive the stock really high down, right? And if they know that they can stampede people up and down, right? Then if they know, okay, I can make that happen, then I can make even more money because I'll get out on top, and then I will buy low, sell high, right? But I can make other people, swing more, right?
Right, right.
So once we got down to 330, they know technical analysis, they know that, hey, people are, paper hands are ready to dump the stock, right? All I got to do is drive it down below, and then I can pick it up down below, right? So they can swing that. And there's been some video recordings of like Jim Cramer when he had a fund talking about it, 20 years ago, right?
Uh,
Where he might have been drunk, talking to someone and saying, hey, of course, if I have a hedge fund, I'm going to spend a few $1 million to make the stock dump, and then I'm going to buy and move it up. So while there's absence of actual noise, like the whole long term, you're getting the value of the stock. Like there has to be real value there for it to move up really high.
right, right.
But moving up between, 488 down to 250 and that kind of stuff, yes, you cut it in half, but for a volatile stock, you can generate that kind of move,
Right,
right?
right.
And right now, there's a lot of noise, a lot of volatility. People are scared, people are angry. So you can make this happen, right? But my view is that in 2 months, 3 months, 4 months at the outside, all the big things are going to start happening, and this will be noise. So if you look at Tesla back in 2020, so 2019, it was late 2019, it was $15. It goes up to 60. And this is, you have to adjust it split, 15
Right,
times, whatever,
right, right.
right? But 15 down up to 60 by February 21. So over 4 months, it 4x, even bigger than the move we just had, right? Up to 48. And then it collapsed in a month down to $28. So
Mm,
less than 50%,
mm.
right? And then immediately V-shaped up to 130, right? Or yeah, something like that. Yeah. So I'm sorry, that was with Nvidia. So sorry, it went up something like 130. It made a big monster
Big,
move. I think maybe up to 300 actually. The 300. So it went up like 10x, 28 to 300. About 10x in the space of less than a year,
yeah.
right? And there was in between there. In that move of 10x, there were times it paused. 3 months it would pause, it would pull back a bit, and then it moved up again, it paused, pulled back. It was everyone was saying buy the dip when it
Right.
was happening,
Right.
right? So I think 2020 and 2025 are similar years
Mm.
that way, right?
Hmm.
And I did say this like 2 weeks ago, so not like
Right.
I'm making this up.
Right.
People go back 13 days to another video that you and I did. I said this exact same thing, right?
Right.
And not saying you can't get this precise move um, plotted out, right? And then for Nvidia, 14 months before the ChatGPT moment, which was I think like November
November.
2022, something like that,
Yep.
right? So 2020, early 2021 or late 2021, is that the Nvidia stock was like at 31 bucks. I think it pretends split whatever, 300 bucks, whatever it was. And then it goes down to one third. It goes down to like 11 bucks, right? On the day before, the month before um, the
Yeah. GPT moment.
happy moment. And then it starts, printing cash next quarter. It still takes a month or two to start moving. It kind of came up a bit because 11 was oversold, and it's really going to say, hey, that's too low. And then it makes the move over a year or more up, I think within a year it was above the 30, it was like at 50, and then it went up again. Well, it went to 48 by the end of the next year,
Mm.
23. And then in 24, middle of the year, it gets up to 130. That's where I get the 130 from,
Right.
right? So so then for people thinking, oh, I'm going to time things and blah, blah, blah. If you even like look back over the trading of those stocks and say, if I block out, read a piece of paper or something like that and block out what's going to happen, do I think, okay, should I buy here? Should I buy that? Even though you can start rolling the paper forward, you know, and with a bad move to buy at 30 and hold it,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because yes, they went down to 11, but
Right.
then I
Right.
can go up to 130, right? For Tesla, was it bad to buy at 60? Oh, I bought at the peak of February, right?
Right.
And it went down to 28,
Right.
right? But then it goes up, to 300,
Right.
right? So with a bad move to buy 60, you made a 5x,
Yeah.
right? So so that and with the movements were within a few months. So if you just like roll back on a growth stock, like what was happening with Apple or Amazon, that kind of
Right.
stuff, is these big moves. And it was not about timing within, 1 to 2x, double or whatever. It was
Hmm.
about, is this thing gonna be 10x, 100x bigger down the
Right.
road?
Right. Yeah. I think we've said it before on this channel, but I was listening, Chris Camilla, Camaria.
Camille?
I
Yeah,
never get his name right. Camilla.
yeah.
Anyway,
I get something like that.
yeah. So he was talking last night and he was saying more or less the same thing. He says, look, if you've got a stock that you're 99, that you're really convinced is going to move up, a 3x and it's got a downside risk of 25%, you buy it.
Right.
It's like I forget he had a ratio, like a ratio of 4 to 1 or something,
Yeah.
that is kind of his breaking point that it has to be over 4 to 1 in terms of the risk reward.
Reward. Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. So I think 100% agree, with everything you're saying. So now the interesting thing would be then based on that scenario you just laid out is will the market start to have FOMO as we get really, really close to June, whatever day it's going to actually start in Austin? Will the market not do anything until they actually roll them out in Austin? Or if it's like Nvidia and the ChatGPT moment, are they going to wait until the next quarter to find out how much money they made?
So they can start turning around on many different things, right? Because we're, oversold, right?
Right.
On the other hand, a few more things, people can freak out about and then people can sell, right? But again, the odds,
Right.
the downside risk down to 270, 250, whatever, and then the upside up to 500 on even not the big news,
Right.
just on
Right.
things,
Normal.
people
Yes.
getting less calm, more calm,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Yes.
So that's already there. Just like, before, the election, there was concerns about the election, there was this like that, and then there was a relief when it didn't happen, and then
Right.
you just popped up like 50%,
Right.
right? So I view us as the market's pushing our head underwater, right? Can I push your head down even more? Yes, I can. But I should be, a neutral point might be, 360 to 400,
Yeah.
right? That'd be a neutral point,
Yeah.
right? Then
Yeah.
you have up and down, right? So if I release your head, or a beach ball or something like that,
Right.
it would pop up. It would pop up above the water and then land on the water, right? So that's how I view that. And the yeah, so then other stuff that can come. On the other hand, people can choose to freak out, on April 2nd with the
Right.
the low production number,
Right.
right? There'll be all the Tesla Q bears, everyone saying, look, 350,000, 400,000, year over year, quarter over quarter, whatever, negative growth, right?
Mhm.
So that noise is going to be there for sure,
Mhm. Mhm.
right? But it doesn't change the fact that we're in the middle of the Model Y ramp,
Right.
which we got some news today that maybe that ramp is going decently at 2,000 per day, 14,000 per week for the Model Y in China, right?
Right. Right.
So those are indications, if it pans out, in some um, they have the weekly insurance numbers, others like that. So if those numbers get confirmed, then you know things could start looking better because people, oh yeah, it's ramping. Yes, the numbers are bad.
And Lars basically said in that interview that California and Austin were both doing fine because he was shooting over to Berlin to see how they were doing. He said they're doing fine on the ramp.
Right,
And he was pretty proud of the fact that all four factories had been able to switch at the same time. That was he
right,
he he recognized that as being an achievement that even Ford could not have done.
right. And they have the the orders. Like there's 200,000, 300,000 orders.
Right,
So if you make the cars, they've already sold them.
right,
So so that's all good. That's it's not like um, they made a bad version of a Model Y and people aren't going to buy it.
right.
They're going to buy it.
So I put out my list of catalysts the other day, and one of those catalysts came true today, and that was FSD in China. And it wasn't, it didn't impact the market at all, obviously.
Yeah.
And it didn't get any headlines, and it probably won't,
Mhm.
because I think it came out weird. So when it
Yeah.
came out, it doesn't get to use the name FSD, and it wasn't like an announcement that China had approved, FSD. It was just China now has this advanced ADA,
Yeah.
and it had to trickle out. It had to trickle out that this
Hmm.
is a full-on FSD, same capabilities as our FSD in the United States
Right.
on hardware 4. And so, if you'd asked me 3 days ago, I would have said, hey, when they announce FSD is available in China, it'll move the market.
Right.
But we got nothing out of it.
Which I think goes to like you remember you had said one of the previous big moves was based on a Bank of America
Yes,
note analysis of it,
yes,
right? So it was like we had all this information. We, the test community knew, okay, we knew all this stuff. But then it came out with Bank of America saying it.
yeah.
And then suddenly the analyst said, oh, now I
Oh,
believe it.
oh.
I don't believe Randy Kirk. I don't believe, Stephen Mark Ryan. But, this Bank of America person,
I'm glad you put us in the right order.
yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah. So also like I I thought when I identified that the Tesla Megapack factory in Shanghai was twice as big
Right,
and have twice the production, I
right.
thought eventually people would clue onto that, but that didn't move anything, right?
Like
One people
everybody in the community knows.
everyone in the community knows, right?
But even like even Dan Ives hasn't said, oh, by the way, that Shanghai factory.
Yeah, they always say, and there'll be 40 gigawatt hours from Shanghai. It's
Right.
like, no, it's gonna be 80, right?
Or
So
unless half of that factory is going to be for unboxed cyber cabs.
right, right. So but either way, if it's 40 plus Cybercab
Right.
or just 80, it's still positive
Still,
news.
still lots
Right.
bigger than it needs to be. Yes,
Right.
absolutely.
So yeah, so we need to, so when will it ha people the shoe drop, right? It can take a week, 2 weeks, suddenly um and it's a weird thing where it's like you knew it was all there. Also like again, rolling back before the election, we had that fantastic Q3. It's like,
Yeah, yeah,
hey, we're going to have new model cars, everything wonderful, but then they wouldn't react to it because of all the negativity,
right,
which could be also right now.
right.
All the negativity, all the hoopla
I
around
right.
Elon and Trump could be saying, I hear what you're saying about FSD in China. That is important. But right now, because of, you know, you're doing all this stuff that's making things chaotic. I'm holding back. So the money could be holding back from
Hmm.
reacting to this because they don't have to price it right all at once.
Right.
Again, they can say, I think I'm going to let some other people get shaken out and they're going to buy it even cheaper because I can see if I do nothing, it'll still go down. It's still trending down. I can then pick it up, end of this week, at, 270, right? I make another 10%. That's all great for me, right? So they can game that too, and it could be a matter of chicken of like, when do I choose to buy? Like there was the movie Trading Places, right? We had if people don't know, it was like an 80s movie, or late 70s movie. He had Dan Aykroyd, you had uh, um, Eddie Murphy, and they were, Eddie Murphy was a poor person who was trading oil futures, sorry, orange futures, and there was a crop report, and then they had this information, and they were letting people panic, and so the other traders panic until a certain point, and then they chose to step in to buy, right?
I see. I see.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So that's yeah, very likely that that kind of stuff is definitely going on. So we have I've been saying that it'll take us until the end of April in terms of vehicles to really know. We'll get the China numbers, but nobody's discounting China. I
right,
think everybody figures China's going to sell lots of Model Ys and sell their normal amount of Model 3s or maybe a few more because maybe the Model Y makes more interest than China, Model 3s. But I don't think anybody's going, oh yeah, China's not going to sell cars. I think that what people are worried about is the United States and Europe. How many will they sell in the United States and Europe? I think it's going to take us till the end of April, not even April 2nd. That's not really going to tell us anything. It's going
mhm,
to really be the end of April probably at the earnings call is when we're really going to find out how Model Y is doing. And that could be the big news out of the earnings call would be somebody saying, okay, how's Model Y doing?
right, right,
And getting a report up to date as
yeah.
to how is it ramped, how are the orders, et cetera. Yeah.
I think you also may only get the 60, 70% of the information. You may see, okay, you're gonna have pretty good, but you don't know that it will say have steady state sales that are 20% beyond what was happening before,
Yeah.
right? It's just like for the Model 3 refresh,
Hmm.
it ended up being about steady state the same
Yeah.
as the previous one.
Yeah.
But
Shocked me.
holding the decline was an important thing for Model
Right.
3,
Right.
right? And again, they had to do it in order to prepare for Model Y refresh,
Right.
right? So if we can get something out of that, then that would be a mover for the Gary Blacks and the other analysts who
Right.
count
Oh yeah.
cars,
Oh yeah.
right? But for me, it's get it ramped, get onto the new car, and then have the supply chain ramp to do all that kind of stuff, and then have the unsupervised stuff. You're going to have a bunch of things overlapping, right?
Right. Right.
Because like
Yes.
the robotaxi, the
Unsupervised.
licensing, whether there's the licensing enforcement. So a bunch of stuff could happen the way I'm expecting to happen that will move the stock, and then it will be hopefully a wave of good news of like, you know, full FSD licensing, full FSD within there, unsupervised, tick, 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 all of it happens. So it'll be several chat GPT moments.
Right.
Boom, 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 boom,
Yes.
boom.
Yeah.
Right.
One of the ones that I'm expecting for the April meeting is going to be a big month for energy. That it's
Right.
going to be a big surprise, maybe even 17 gigawatt hours
Right.
could happen. And then, of course, Bradford Ferguson thinks that the Model Y is going to be a massive hit and that it's going to go to, something like 2.5 million just for Model Y. I assume that that means that he agrees with me that Russia and Ukraine are going to be opened up as markets.
I don't think you need that. You just need the China sales and yeah, and the U.S. sales. China
Okay.
U.S. sales would be the main ones that would drive to really big numbers.
All right. What do you think is going to happen in India? Do you think India is going to be a car factory, or do you think it's going to be a megapack factory, or what do you think?
So India produces about 600,000 cars. They make Nissan, they make Honda, so they make Suzuki, I think, and then they have Tata, which owns Jaguar and Range Rover, which are built in the UK,
Mhm.
right? So they make about 100,000 of those premium cars per year. Um, but they're going to make by 2025, 2026, late 2025, and then 2026, some factories for the Jaguar and the Range Rover in India.
Hmm.
So with reciprocal tariffs, right, then they would have had to pay like, I think they had 100% tariff, something crazy.
115 or something.
115, right. So they've dropped it down to like 15%,
Right.
right? Because they know that with reciprocal tariffs, nothing they make will sell anywhere else. Well, in the United States, so
Right.
they got 100,000 cars. I think there are 100,000 cars from the UK, mostly go to the United States, the premium cars, and then about 100,000, 150,000 of those more inexpensive, like relabeled, Japanese cars, or like joint venture Japanese cars,
Uh-huh.
are going to the United States. So they could say, if with some simple tariffs, which already kicked in, they would say, okay, I will never sell those cars
Right.
if I have a
Right.
simple tariff. So I got to drop it down to 15, right? So, and then they were in discussions where it's like they wanted to do a deal with Tesla, because mega packs, other cars, all that kind of stuff. But then their hand got forced. It's like, okay, I got to do something faster because hey, this thing's reciprocal tariffs is coming in, and then if I want to have a better deal, I need to talk to this buddy of the president, and then I wanted them in there anyway, and now I'm
Right.
forced to cut tariffs anyhow. So now they can sell cars into India because I have to give that up anyway.
Right.
So maybe give the one that I want to have come in, right? So it kind of accelerated
Mhm.
talks where they were playing hard to get.
Mhm.
Now
Mhm.
they have to make the deal.
Okay, so I've been a little out of it for the last 3 hours. Earlier this morning, President Trump said that the tariffs for Mexico and Canada were going to happen. Was there any more news on that the rest of the day? Because it would seem like those would be kind of rough. They're not even reciprocal. Well, they are in a way. I guess they have like a 200% tariff on eggs or something.
Right. I
But
think they have 3 to 4 more days to sort this out.
okay,
So again, it's a game of chicken,
okay,
right? So why Canada and well, I know why. It's because of they're playing politics, local politics
yeah, yeah.
around it, right? But they have 4 more days. They're playing chicken. They want to look tough, blah blah blah, and so but what they actually do, on the day, before the day, last hours, I would expect it to get called off, right? Because if it doesn't get called off, then and even with reciprocal tariffs, if you leave the
Right,
reciprocal tariffs up,
right.
then GM and Ford are going to get smacked, right? Because they make cars and car parts
Yeah,
in Ontario,
right.
right? And they make other cars and car parts in, like I think the Mach-E is made in Mexico. Other cars,
Yep, yep,
various of the SUVs are made in Mexico, right?
right.
So, but it's also like Canada and Mexico's entire economy. It's like $1 trillion worth of exports into the United States. If you 25% tariffs them, that drops down to nothing, and then within a month, you know, factories are shutting. I think you have less than, factories shut down, people get laid off. It would be instant pain, instant, really bad, and then for the politicians running it, it'd be like, okay, you want to talk tough, but now a million people are unemployed
Right.
and huge factories are shut down. So
So I see, it seems, it appears anyway, that the Canadian problem is a bigger problem than the Mexico problem, because Canada is so dependent. I forget what the number is, but it was a huge percentage of their GDP is between aluminum, steel, oil, natural gas, these parts, these car parts. I mean, it's a pretty substantial amount of business. Seems like it could be a bigger deal for them. Mexico is a little more, well, first of all, it's just not that successful a country anyway. So what do you think?
I thought actually by the numbers, I have to look at it again. I thought Mexico was more dependent,
Oh, really?
but
Okay.
yeah, so it would be a bigger hit for them, particularly if they also hit their remittances. So
Oh, yeah.
the
Oh,
people in
yeah.
Mexico,
Oh,
in
yeah.
Mexican people in the United States send back $60 billion in
Right.
cash a
Right.
year.
Right.
So it would be, like $5 billion a month,
Yeah.
not going in cash, not going
Right.
back.
Right.
So um, there's a bunch. They both would hurt bad. It would be really, like a devastating, and particularly some provinces, whereas like Ontario, where the bulk of the population is in Canada, 40%,
Right.
a particular area, they have a lot of, it's like a Detroit of Canada,
Right.
where they would, lose out their auto business and other stuff like that. Yeah.
I think the Hamilton, isn't that kind of the, yeah, one of those,
Yeah, there's Hamilton outside of Toronto, and yeah, there's a whole area there.
yeah, and yeah, and of course the Western Canadians are kind of like probably wondering whether they would be better off to be the 51st state, because the Western Canadians are always saying, look, if it wasn't for our oil and gas and mining and whatnot, you guys would already be out of business.
So I lived for 4 years in Alberta, which is,
Okay.
the
Okay.
Texas of Canada,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I know all about the discussions about, hey, like we're worse off with these things. They could, Jordan Peterson, also Canadian, has mentioned here they should renegotiate the deals and all that kind of stuff. And then, Alberta, the premier right now is saying that she's really annoyed where all the people in Ontario, and Ottawa, which is, the DC of Canada, they're saying, hey, we should punish the Americans by cutting off our oil, which is like going to Texas and say, let's not produce oil and gas anymore, and let's use this as a weapon against whoever.
Right.
And then Alberta's going like, whoa, 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 that's 70% of our economy. What are you, 80% of our economy? What are you talking about? And it's always us that's sacrificing. We're the
Yeah.
ones that you're
Yeah.
using as a meat shield
Yeah.
standing in front of you to take the bullets. It's like, no, no, thank you. So
Yeah. So, and is it true that because they are independent provinces, that they could individually decide, yeah, we're going to join the United States, or do you think?
so the general politics of Canada. So yes, Alberta is the Texas of Canada, far more to the right than whatever, but that just makes them, like um, a business-oriented Democrat, right? So
Right. Yes. Yes. Yes.
so it's not like they're rushing to join, but if things get bad enough, they would be the first to go, right?
Hmm.
Among the first to go, where they would have a vote, because they have talked about before,
Hmm.
okay, we should leave, become independent.
Hmm.
And for the doorway to become independent with access to the markets, because all they care about, I could, they could, each of the provinces could go their own way,
Yeah.
call their own shots, so long as they have access to the US market,
Right.
right? And that's what Trump is saying. I can give you access to the US market. What would that deal look like, right? And then more like Greenland, 60,000 Inuit Eskimo type
Right.
people, although mixed with Vikings from 1,000 years ago, is Yukon beside Alaska. Northwest Territories, and then 𝐬𝐤.
Right.
Each one of those places have about 45,000 people, right?
Hmm.
And then again, mostly of Inuit Eskimo descent, right?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And they got tons of resources up there, like
Yeah. Yeah.
massive, each one about the size or bigger than Alaska, right?
Right.
So you got three of them up there, and very few people. Pretty much looks like Greenland, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So if and then because they're natives, right? Just like Indians on reservations, they can have right of self-determination, all that kind of stuff,
Oh, okay.
right?
They're
So
even
then
more,
again,
they're more independent than the provinces.
right? Although they didn't, within their own territories they are, but they can again vote the whole
Yeah. Yeah.
block territory and say, hey, we want to split off because Quebec has been trying to have that vote, I don't know, like three times, four
Right.
times, where they say we're going to split away. So the French-speaking ones have been saying all the time. So
Right.
now, because they kept doing that, there is some structure, some kind of like, just in case, what would that look like?
Right.
And so they kind of said, yeah, you can vote, and then just like Denmark, because Greenland, you can vote to go away, but then we'll have to have some actual political legal discussions about what does that look like. We haven't got that sorted out. But the framework of yeah, it's okay. It's not gonna be like a civil war. If you want to divorce me, we'll go talk to the lawyers and we'll figure out how to split it up. So similarly for Yukon, North Dakota, if you want to vote, you want to divorce us, we can figure that out. Right?
Yeah.
We don't have something where it's like, okay, no, 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 we're going to send the army.
Right. No, no, no. Yeah.
No, no, we're going to get divorced. I'm not going to call the cops.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
going to get divorced.
Yeah.
Let's figure out what that looks like. So
Wow.
each one of them could theoretically do it.
Wow. Yeah.
Whether they
'Cause I
choose to
remember,
do it is another story.
yeah, because I remember all the Quebec stuff, and that was, they could have walked away. So they can keep, I think they can keep Quebec. It's okay with me.
Right, right, right. Again, so it's based on each of the enough people. If you can get half or 60% or whatever to say, okay, yes, we want to go,
Right.
right? But then there has to be a deal there. But currently, based on the polling, it's only, you know, overall, I think it's about like 15% of Canada would want to do that. And then for
15?
Alberta, 15, yeah. And then for Alberta, it's like 20%,
Oh,
22%,
okay.
something like that.
Right. Okay.
So it's still minority, right?
Right.
But you haven't come to them as right
And
now,
make
it's
an
just
offer. Yeah.
right. It's vague. It's not like
Right.
if it's an
Right.
actual offer. If it's an actual offer that says, here's the deal and you make $1 million.
Right.
It's
Yes.
like, oh, well, that's different. Now each person makes $1 million, right?
Yeah. Right.
Then it's like, okay, well, now that's a different story,
Yes.
right? Now
Yes.
I have an actual offer in front of me.
Right.
And it's like, yes, you know, all the Canadians maybe are leaving their media, which is, like MSNBC, CNN on steroids,
Yeah.
right? And say,
Yeah.
okay, we hate this guy,
Right. Right.
right?
But now you have a more even announce. So that maybe for the territories, all you'd have to do is say, hey, we'll give you the same deal we give Alaska. You get
Greenland,
you
yeah,
get
Greenland,
royalties
Alaska,
on
whatever,
you get
yeah.
royalties on the minerals. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. So if they would actually make the Greenland deal work,
Yeah.
then
And
there's
that would
several
be,
places.
oh, yeah, yeah.
If they make the Greenland deal work, and then suddenly like people go like, whoa, that's a great deal.
Yeah.
And look, a year they're making crap loads of money,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Then the other places are going, well, now that's serious,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
I may want to wait for them to do it for a year, maybe 2 years,
Right.
right? But if that was to actually happen in some form,
Right.
right? Or, the various mineral deals that are happening, where it's like not really independent, but it's a mineral deal. Like they're
Mhm.
talking mineral deals in
Mhm.
Ukraine, they're
Mhm.
talking about mineral deals with
Right.
Russia and their part of Ukraine, they're talking mineral deals in Greenland, right? Then all those places, think the US may not want those places, right? They just want the minerals and stuff, right? The
Right.
mineral, the oil, right? So if you get that part of the deal to happen,
Right.
right,
Right.
then that's all good.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. All right. So, what do you think? What's going to happen the rest of the week? We got the PCE on Friday. I
Mhm.
asked Grok what's going to happen with the PCE on Friday. Grok said that it's looking like pretty flat compared to last quarter. I mean, last month.
Mhm.
We've got Nvidia earnings tomorrow. So those are the two biggies for the rest of the week. Are those
I'm certainly expecting Nvidia to outperform because
outperform?
they systematically. I think AJ said systematically underpromise. So when you underpromise or deliver, right? So they
Right.
just
Right.
do that automatically. So I'm expecting them to hit their numbers, like exceed their numbers and all that kind of
Right.
stuff, and again guide to a good result.
Could we get it? Could we
Um,
get a, should we get, are we going to get a surprise? Because sometimes
in
they
what
have a
way?
surprise. Yeah.
Well, for people who don't know, I'm saying that XAI is going to create superintelligence,
Right.
right? It's going to be next year,
Right.
right? And there could be a pretty good one at the end of this year. Like if you have Grok 3 is really good, Grok Video coming out in a few months, and then a Grok 4, which will be trained with 12 times the compute,
Now, so Grok
coming out.
4, you're saying Grok 4 will have higher IQ than me, right?
Yeah, yeah, I'm
Okay.
saying that. Yeah, higher IQ than me, higher IQ than you, right? I'm saying Grok 4 is going to have that, right? So it's going to have 12 times compute. I run the
I
scaling
mean,
law
that's high.
things.
I mean, that's really high.
Yeah, yeah, that's,
Oh,
that's
I'm sorry.
high.
Sorry, I keep interrupting you.
It could even be higher than Elon, right?
Even
So
higher no, no, I wouldn't be shocked if Elon, I know we had this whole, they have this whole discussion right now because somebody's, what was it, that the author,
AOC,
yeah,
AOC.
no, the author that wrote his biography,
Oh, Walter Isaacson. Yeah,
Isaacson said his IQ is between 100 and 110.
yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised if Elon's IQ is really in the 150, 160 area
yeah,
because there's a kind of a diminishing return when you really get into the stratosphere in terms
yeah,
of practical knowledge.
yeah.
And you find that people that are like Elon aren't necessarily way off the charts because it
Right,
it messes them up too much.
right. But what is also one other thing I found was that they've approved in Memphis, where they have the XAI factory, they've approved adding 15 of these mobile turbines at
Right,
16 megawatts each. So
right,
basically adding 240 megawatts of power
right,
in like 3 months,
right.
right? Which will be enough for them to add 200,000
More
B200
chips. Yeah,
chips, right?
yeah,
So that's going to be a nice little thing for a Q2 for Nvidia, right? To
yeah,
say, hey, or actually they probably already sold the chips and they're just going to install them, right?
yeah, 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 yeah.
So, but their 200,000 chips means that um, Meta, um, uh, OpenAI, Microsoft,
My
Amazon,
guy.
they also have to have their B200 chips too, right? So thus, I'm expecting really good results from them.
I was thinking about product because last time I noticed that Jensen lately has really been talking about the next layer of product, and I was thinking that maybe they would have an announcement about some, something in that next layer of uh, yeah.
So the GPU wise, they should be releasing as early as Q4 a Rubin chip, which will be the next thing after the B200, after the Blackwell.
Right.
So the Rubin chip is coming, but it'll be low volume or something. The question of like how fast can they ramp it? But it's coming out, like getting probably do a product day with Rubin chips in Q4, right? Latest Q1, right?
Right.
And then they got to wrap it through 2026. And then 2027 or late 2026, there'll be an ultra version of it, which be, I don't know, like an H200, it's an H100. And then after that, there's going to be an entirely new architecture,
Okay.
right? So they got a bunch of stuff coming out year after year after year, and they're doing using their AI to design different versions of their chip. So they
Right.
when
Right.
they did the B200 chip, they used AI to do it, and when they made different versions of it, they used AI to do that. So they can make more models, more versions of things
Mhm.
because they got that AI enhanced. So more products is definitely possible.
I also saw, to switch subjects, I also heard on X today, because some people were a little worried that if Tesla was able to do the FSD chip, I mean, FSD in China without real world data, just by doing simulations, would that mean that Nvidia or other companies that are trying to do FSD would have the same capability? And I'm just wondering what your take on that is.
We don't know how much data um, Tesla has, how much they were able to capture, how much they were able to store, because they have the cameras going around. Um, so they weren't able to send the data out.
Right.
but there was no rule from the United States or from China that they could not record and keep their data within China.
Mhm,
You
mhm.
know, US said, yeah, yeah, keep your video data in China. I don't care. And then China says, yeah, keep the video data in China. I don't care. The China thing was, don't send the video out of China,
Right, right.
right? Um, but then, you know, what was the rule in terms of like sending out model weights, sending out some other parts of the information? If I was to um, take out sensitive information, now I'm allowed to send it out? I don't know, right? But if they just have the data within China, they have a compute cluster there,
Right,
not as big as the one over
right,
here,
right.
but they have some compute capability over there, and they can deal with wherever else. So they can then do some level of localized training,
Mhm,
right?
mhm, mhm.
So to say that they don't have data or they did it without that, I don't think it's correct. I think they did do that. The question is, we don't know how much.
Would it also be true that the underlying capability of Tesla after all these years, the kind of the bones of the FSD is not something that anybody else has also? I mean,
Right.
people were looking for a moat today. Would that be part of the moat? Would just
Yeah,
be,
yeah, yeah. Yeah, no one else has that. Yeah, no one else had their capability. You know, I know that various companies, you know, like full total over-the-air updates. People have kind of made it an over-the-air update, but it's partial, it's not the full thing, right? So it's not the same thing. You know, digital duplicates, you know, a lot of the stuff that Tesla has done has not been fully copied. And you need to be able to send, you know, like 10 gigabytes of data a day from each car back to the central
yeah,
systems, right?
yeah,
And the because it's not just saying I'm going to see whether to have this not have this accident or do something like that. The breakthrough with version 12 was I am identifying the best drivers in
right,
Shanghai. I'm going to identify the best drivers in New York
right,
and the cab drivers, something like that. And
right,
then I'm going to be able to look at all the little nuances, not even when they get to the accident, but you
right.
know how well they're keeping their lane,
Mhm.
where on the lane they're going, all those thousands of different nuances that they're doing in order to, you know, perfect the driving.
Right.
And so for the Shanghai, for the Beijing, for everywhere else, they're like, I'm identifying all the really good drivers, and I'm also looking at bad drivers. So they're using a lot of data.
Yeah.
And one, almost no one else is capturing that much. They're capturing tinier amounts. Their
Mhm.
cars don't even have the systems to capture it, to
Right,
send it, to
right,
do anything with it. So, and then other guys, you know, BYD, oh, they came up with, you know, something and they're going to do all this stuff. 2 years ago, they were saying, I purposely do not want any self-driving system, any driver assist systems. They were like, I'm
right,
anti that. And
right,
then they flipped totally to get it. But then now they're just from the starting point. Yes, they're going out broad,
right,
right? But they're just starting to do it now.
right.
So they have to get the data. And then everyone else doesn't have the volume. Everyone else has 100,000 cars, 200,000 cars. And we know you cannot get enough miles for 10, 20 years with only 100,000 cars.
Right, 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 right. Yeah. Okay. I think that covers all the stuff that I wanted. So we interrupted our normal programming with Brian White tonight. The video is shot. It may not be that we don't. It may be that we don't get to Brian White's video until Friday or Saturday. But I thought that this was very important given what happened today on the market to have Brian on tonight. And Brian, I think you're going to be back with me tomorrow night. We're going to be talking about the new Model Q, less expensive, more affordable vehicle, because you've got ideas, of course you do, that nobody else is talking about.
Yeah.
And we'll see if you get it right, because you are a futurist after all.
When I worked with the Grok 3 AI, it wants to call it a Model C, various versions of Model
A
C,
Model C.
a
Okay.
compact car.
A
Yeah.
compact.
So
Okay.
you know, Model Q, Model 3, Model 2, you know, we don't know what's going to be called, but it's new models, less expensive. Yeah.
All right. So we'll do that tomorrow night, this same time, 7:45 Pacific. And again, Brian, as always, thanks for coming on. And to all of you out there, it's been great talking to you.